Again, today I'll be wearing two caps. The first cap is being one of the coordinator of this series, and the second cap is joining Richard to examine the topic soul of the. And before today, I want to thank all of our friends from far and near. Those who are joining us from England, from Nigeria. I can see they're joining us from America. And again, our friends from in Nairobi, they're there. I can see our speakers are ready. I can see Baba Onifade is there. Baba, I wish Bala is coming. It's there from Dr. Khalid around. Dr. Aguha is joining us from Nairobi. And of course, Dr. Akio Tiko is joining us from University of It's going to be a very splendid time today. We are going to look at this topic. We understand that design is not restricted to urban planning or landscape architecture or interior design or architecture. There are other excellent courses: religion, urban anthropology, architectural archaeology, environmental psychology. And we have assembled 5 people today. We're going to talk, we give them an average of 5 minutes, and then we will now come over for question and answer. And there are some people who have asked a question in the last 2 days, and we will read it to our panelists who will answer the question. Then I will come back to appreciate your presence for another 5 minutes. It's nice having you around. We believe that the grace of God is going to be upon you to contribute your own quota as we look at the very sensitive issue of the soul of the city. We will go in this order. We will first of all invite Chief Olufade, the Archbishop of Igala. He will come perspective. Then we will call Dr. We will follow by Dr. Khalid, who wear 2 caps. One as a devout Muslim, as well as a person from cell biology that is used to the issue of DNA. Then we bring in Dr. Otiko. Again, he's wearing 2 caps. One, he's coming as a Reverend Father in Roman Catholic Church. At the same time, as one of the research person from Institute of African Study and Diaspora here. Then we now call in Captain Badijo, an experienced captain, has been around for a long time. We're talking about 30 years. He will bring his experience here again on this issue. Then finally, we will now call on an architect, Dr. Basil, who was there in 2017 at Korea when they did the School of the City. Gentlemen, we appreciate your coming. I'll just now invite Oluwasegun to kickstart this. Thinking, everybody, enjoy your time. Bless you all.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Adejumo. Again, we welcome every one of you to today's series as we listening to our panel doing justice to soul of the city. On the panel today, I will call on Chief Onifade, Awishe of Egberland, to give us perspective on Ifa, on what he's saying about the soul of man, as well as that of the city. So we welcome Chief Onifade on today's webinar series. Chief Akitude Onifade, welcome on the line. Chief Akitude. Hello. Chief Akitude.
can still. Unmute.
Put your mute.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
You can now talk, sir. Yes. You can talk, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I want
sir.
to appreciate the organizer of this. Huh? Am I on?
Yes, you are on, sir.
Am I on?
Yes, you are on. Go on.
I want to appreciate the organizer of this webinar for giving me the privilege to participate in this platform and to share my experience. I'm highly delighted to be part of this program. My name is Chief Akitunde Onifade, the Awishe Onifa of Ibarapa, Egba land. Going by the topic, the soul of a city. We all know what we mean by a city. City is a large area with houses, shops, offices that are occupied by a large number of people. And it is usually the center of government for an area. Soul, when we say soul, soul is the part of a person that is not physical, which cannot be seen, but it contains the character, the thoughts, and the feelings. The soul of a city is the basic nature and beliefs of that city. The basic nature and beliefs of that city. Ohun tí a ń pè ní ẹ̀mí nílùú, òun ni ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ àti ìgbàgbọ́ tí ìlú yẹn ní. The soul of the city is divided into two, according to Ifá. Tí a ń pè lẹ́mìí ìlú, ọ̀nà méjì ló pín sí. The first is the people, and the second is the tradition of the city, tradition of the land. Èèyàn, òun ni ẹ̀mí ìlú. Because if you want to talk about a city, you must talk about people. Because people must be living there. Níbi tí ó bá sí èèyàn, kò sẹ́mi níbẹ̀. Because a ò lè sọ pé ìlú àwọn ẹranko, or ká pè ní ìlú àwọn ẹyẹ. It is only when people are living there that you can call it a city, and it will have a name. Ó máa ní orúkọ. Orúkọ tá wá ń sọ yìí, Ifá ni ó máa mú orúkọ ìwá, torí Ifá ni wọ́n fi ń tẹ ìlú dó. Àwọn èèyàn gbọ́ngbọ́n, àwa ni ẹ̀mí ìlú. Téèyàn ò bá ti gbé ìlú, kò sẹ́mi níbẹ̀. If you look at it, àwọn bàbá wa wọ́n á ní àwọn abúlé kan. Kí ló fà tó ṣe fún abúlé? Gbogbo tí ìdílé jẹ́ ìdílé, ìdílé ìdílé. Ẹ̀rọ jẹ́ mọ̀. Meanwhile, abúlé ìtẹ́jọ́ yìí, ó ti yẹ kí tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀. Táwọn èèyàn ń gbé bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀. Láìpẹ́ ìdílé ti kí ìdílé kò fún ẹ̀ jẹ́ mọ̀. Ó èèyàn ní ẹ̀mí ìlú. Ó bá ti sínú ìfẹ́mi jẹ́ mọ̀. Èkejì ni tradition of the land. Ìṣẹ̀ṣe ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ ìlú yẹn, ó jẹ́ ẹ̀mí ìlú. Ṣùgbọ́n ìṣẹ̀ṣe yìí, ọwọ́ àwọn alákòóso ìlú wà. The soul of the city relies so much on the people in the authority, the governing people in that city. Ifá ni ó máa tẹ ìlú dó, àwọn èèyàn ló máa ṣe àkóso ẹ̀. fún àpẹẹrẹ nínú odù Ifá kan Ifá mímọ́ ti Ọ̀rúnmìlà orí 5 ẹsẹ̀ 14 ìrosùn orí 14 ẹsẹ̀ 5 ìrẹtẹ̀ tòun ìrosùn orí 14 ẹsẹ̀ 5 ìrẹtẹ̀ tòun ìrosùn. Ifá yìí ló sọ pé òṣìkí àwọn ajéjé afájé ìràdà babaláwo okùn já fókùn fófo rárá já fún olóde ìtorí wọn ní kọ́ kára ńlẹ̀ ẹ̀bọ ní kọ́ ṣe. Àwọn ará òde ìtorí nígbà tí wọ́n fẹ́ tẹ ìtorí dó tán pera wọ́n dáfá ló fi jẹ́ pé Ifá la fi ń tẹ̀dùdó. Nígbà tí wọ́n dá Ifá odù Ifá tó jáde ní ìrosùn tòun ìrẹtẹ̀ tòun ìrosùn. Ó wá sọ fún wọn pé Ifá ní kó rúbọ, Ifá ní kó ṣe ètùtù, Ifá ní kí wọ́n ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ orí what we call orí ìṣẹ̀kọ pap wọ́n ní kó fi ṣe ètùtù o. Wọ́n wá ní orí yìí wọ́n ní kó rí ìkó pọ̀ wọ́n ní kó fi ṣe ètùtù kí wọ́n bọ ẹgbẹ́. Tó bá ṣètùtù yìí tán kó wá mú orí yìí tó bá ti ń jẹ tán kó máa tú sílẹ̀ kó máa tú ewé ẹ̀ sílẹ̀. Nígbà tí wọ́n ń tú ewé ẹ̀ sílẹ̀ tó ṣètùtù yìí tán tí ìlú wa di ńlá wá wò pé orúkọ wo làwọn fẹ́ fún ìlú yìí wọ́n wá rántí pé ètùtù wo la ṣe tí a fi tẹ̀lú ìgbó wọ́n ní ṣe làwọn tú orí táwọn fi ṣe ètùtù. Ibi tá a gbé ti tú orí ẹ jẹ́ ká máa pè ní ìtorí. That is why it is called Ìtorí. It is here in Ogun State. Ifá náà tún sọ nínú odù míì nínú Òtúrúpọ̀dí orí 12 ẹsẹ̀ 4 ó ní òréré nílé òjé adóréré nílé idẹ iṣan gbaragada lọjà bàbà òjò pọ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ tán ń dábàá òjò ohun gbogbo ṣe ń wàrà oko ní í ṣe adá fún àgbàmalé abẹ̀wò ọ̀ṣẹ̀gẹ̀ lọ́rùn níjọ́ tó ń lọ sílùú Haúsá àgbàmalé ìpọ́njú ó wà nínú ìpọ́njú wọ́n ní kó ṣe ètùtù o wọ́n ní kó ní ewu ríṣìṣòkété wọ́n ní kó fi ṣe ètùtù. Nígbà tí kò wá rówó torí kò inú ìpọ́njú ló wà kò wá rówó tó máa fi ṣe ètùtù yìí ó wá ń wá ewu ibi tó ti ń wá ewu ó wá rí ewu níbì kan owó tún owó sìn ó bá jí ewu yìí ó jí gbé bó ṣe jí gbé ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sá ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lé torí wọ́n rí ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lé ó ságán ọ̀nà jìn nígbà tó sáré tí wọ́n rí mú ibi tó wá dé wá pé òun ò padà sílùú mọ́ o òun máa tẹ̀dó síbí báyìí o. Ibi tó tẹ̀dó sí ó wá di ńlá táwọn èèyàn wá bá gbé orúkọ òdì kan máa pè ó wá rán sọsọsọsọ tó di ìlú Haúsá lénìí. Ifá ló pìtàn ẹ̀ òun ló di ìlú Haúsá. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ òun ni àwọn kò sí ìlú tí Ifá ò sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀. Talking about the soul of the city, why we now say that the soul of a city relies so much on the people in authority is because if the people that are in control of the city, if they follow the customs, the tradition of the land, there is going to be a progress for the land, for the city. And if they do the other side, it means they are going to experience the backward of the city. That is why the soul of a city relies so much on people in control. Fún àpẹẹrẹ, nínú odù Ifá mímọ́ tí a máa lò gẹ́gẹ́ bí táfi mọ̀ pé ẹ̀mí ìlú ó wà lórí àwọn adarí ìlú, ó wà lọ́wọ́ àwọn èèyàn ìlú tá ń gbèlú àtàwọn tó ń darí wa. A ti mọ̀ pé ìlú kì í wà kó má dùn lórí. We must have a leader. Àwọn olórí yìí ló máa wà ní àkóso bí ìlú yẹn ṣe fẹ́ rí. In terms of economic of the city, ọrọ̀ ajé ìlú yìí báwo ló ṣe fẹ́ máa lọ síwájú? Báwo la ṣe ní rí ogun? How do we not experience war in this city? It depends on the people in authority. Téèyàn máa fọhùn bí ènìyàn, ọwọ́ àwọn adarí ìlú wà. Àtòrí àwọn náà gbàkóso ìlú yẹn, àwọn náà gbé lọ́wọ́. Ifá yìí ló wá lọ báyìí nínú òtúrá tòun ọ̀sẹ̀ orí 13 ẹsẹ̀ 15 òtúrá tòun ọ̀sẹ̀. Òun ló sọ wípé Àjàyí ní fẹsẹ̀ kìrìmì tẹ́lẹ̀, ajá fún Ọláfẹ́mi, èyí tó mẹ́nu sùn ráhùn tọmọ, wọ́n ní kó kára ńlẹ̀ ẹbọ ni kó ṣe. Ọláfẹ́mi òun ló sọ pé òun ò lè bímọ, wọ́n ní kó ṣe ètùtù o, wọ́n ní ẹran ọ̀yà ni kó fi ṣètùtù o. Àmọ́ nígbà tó máa ra ẹran ọ̀yà kékeré lórí rà, wọ́n fi kékeré yẹn wọ́n fi ṣe ètùtù fún, ó jẹ́ bímọ. Nígbà tó wá bímọ, kí ni kan ti sọ orúkọ ọmọ yìí? Nǹkan tí èèyàn bá dẹ̀ ṣe àmì tó bá ṣẹlẹ̀ ló máa ń mórúkọ wá. Wọ́n wò pé ọ̀yà kékeré lòun rà kóhun tó rí ọmọ yìí bí. Wọ́n ní kí wọ́n sọ ọ́ ní jẹ kékeré ọ̀yà. Wọ́n ń pè ní jẹ kékeré ọ̀yà. Jẹ kékeré yìí babaláwo ni, ó wá kọ́fá. Jẹ kékeré ọ̀yà kí o má bàa jẹ́ ńlá. Ajá fún oníṣàbẹ̀ ọ̀pára, ọmọ agbíyan lẹ́bẹ́lẹ́bẹ́ bọ̀rí aya. Òun ló wá dífá fún ọba oníṣàbẹ̀ ọ̀pára. Ọba oníṣàbẹ̀ ọba ni. Ó dẹ̀ máa ń dáfá ní ọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀run. He used to consult Ifá every 5 days to know what is going to happen to the entire city. Is there no war? Is there no calamity? Is everything moving forward? When he now consulted Ifá for Onishabe, the Odufa that came out kí ogun má lè ja ìlú yìí, wọ́n ní kí ó ṣe ètùtù o. Kí ni tó ní kó ṣe? Wọ́n ní kó bọ orí ìyàwó ẹ̀. Ipe nínú àwọn orí ìyàwó ẹ̀, orí ẹ̀ tó máa bọ orí ìyàwó ẹ̀ kan, kí ogun kó má lè ja ìlú ẹ̀, pé kó ogun kó má lè kó. Because ogun yìí ń bọ̀, orí ìyàwó ẹ̀ ló máa bá ṣẹ́gun, ní ò ní jẹ́ kó ogun yẹn kó ráyè wọlé. Ó wá ní kó lọ ra ẹran ọ̀yà, Ọlọ́run ni kó fi bọ orí ìyàwó ẹ̀. Wọ́n ní kó dẹ̀ dùn yán kó fi bọ orí ìyàwó ẹ̀. Wọ́n wá sọ pé Ifá ní ẹran ìyàtọ̀ máa rà ní àti iyán yìí o, òun ló gbọ́dọ̀ sè é fúnra rẹ̀. Ọba fúnra rẹ̀ ni kó ṣe ẹran ìyàtọ̀, òun dẹ̀ ni kó gúnyán yìí fúnra rẹ̀. That the king should prepare the food by himself and pounded down. Wọ́n wá sọ wípé èmi ọba kí máa gúnyán fúnra mi, kí máa ṣebẹ̀. Àwọn ẹ̀ṣọ́ ló wà lẹ́yìn, àwọn ẹrú ló wà lẹ́yìn. Kò wá ṣe ó wò pé òun lè dára òun láàmú nítorí obìnrin, òun torí ìyàwó òun tóun máa borí ẹ̀, òun lè dára òun láàmú. Kò wá ṣe ètùtù yìí. Wọ́n ní kó rọ́jú o, ohun tó fẹ́ ṣe lóòótọ́ ó nira fún gẹ́gẹ́ bíi pé ipò ọba ló wà, ṣùgbọ́n kó ṣe nítorí kó gún máa ja ìlú ẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n kó ṣe. Nígbà tí kò ṣe nǹkan yìí, lẹ́yìn náà òun lògùn wá wọlé, ogun wá wọlé tọ̀. Nígbà tó gún wọlé tọ̀, ogun kó gbogbo ìlú ẹ̀ pátápátá. Àtòun tó jọba náà, ogun kó òun náà, wọ́n kó wọn lẹ́rú. Wọ́n kó wọn lẹ́rú pátá. Òun tó wá ipò ọba tẹ́lẹ̀, ó padà di ẹrú. A rí nínú fáìlì pé àwọn olórí, àwọn alákòóso, àwọn ní ẹ̀mí ìlú látara ètùtù tí ọba yìí kò ṣe, ẹ bó ṣe fi kó bá ìlú yìí àti ara ìfúnra rẹ̀. Torí pé òun yẹ kí ogun ja ìlú ẹ̀. Nígbà tó gún wá kó wọn, gbogbo wọn wá di ẹrú pátá. Òun tó wá ń pò ọba, kò sí ń pò ọba mọ́, tó rántí wà ní abẹ́ àwọn alákòóso míì, wọ́n ti kó wọn lẹ́rú. Ọba yìí, ìyàwó ọba yìí tán ní kí ó bọ orí ẹ̀ yìí, ogun máa jà. Nígbà tí wọ́n kó wọn délùú tán kó wọn lọ, ọba tó wà níbẹ̀ ńṣe ló tún wá yan ìyàwó ọba yìí láyò pé òun lòun fẹ́ fi ṣaya. Ó mú òun, ó tún sọ di aya. ìyẹn padà sípò olórí padà ọba wa wà lẹ́rú òun ló wá ń gúnyán ló wá ń padà síbẹ̀ tí wọ́n ń jẹ láàfin ó wá ń gòkè ó wọlẹ̀ ó ní àwọn aláwọ̀ dẹ̀ sọ òun rọjú òun jẹ́ kékeré yìí nítorí àìgbọ́rọ̀ òun àti rí bí ọba ìlú ṣe jẹ́ kí ogun ja gbogbo ìlú ẹ̀ látara àìtẹ̀lé ọ̀rọ̀ Ọ̀fà látara àìtẹ̀lé ètùtù tó yẹ kó ṣe. That is why our people in government, people in control, they have so much work to do. They should be looking forward to the progress of the city.
Baba Onifade.
Take for example.
Hello? Baba Owishe of Egbaland. Adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Ṣé ń gbọ́ mi sà? À ń padà bọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ yín. A fẹ́ túyà sáwọn ẹgbẹ́ kan. Àwa padà bọ̀ sọ́dọ̀ yín, but ẹ sì dúró díẹ̀ fún wa. À ń padà bọ̀. We've been listening to Owishe of Egbaland talking about the importance or the significance of soul of the city. All we're trying to say, all he's trying to say is that there are city facts which every city must acknowledge for us to discern the soul of the city. On this note, we'll go straight to the next presenter, which I'm going to introduce to us just now. We are going to call on him so as to share his vast experience with us. The person is Dr. Khalid. The person is Dr. Khalid, an associate professor of Department of Cell Biology and Genetics. So he's here to share his vast experience with us. He teaches genetic courses at both undergraduate and graduate level. He's a devout Muslim. I will welcome Dr. Khalid on our webinar series to share his experience with us. Dr. Khalid, can we have you right now? You can unmute yourself. Dr. Khalid, please.
Okay, you have just unmuted me. Thank you.
Yes, you can share your screen.
Am I audible enough?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for the invitation. I want to appreciate the organizers of this webinar. Let me start by saying I was surprised when I was approached that I was going to talk on an architectural platform. Yes, we make diagrams in biology, but good biologists are never good architects, and then good architects can never be a good biologist when it comes to diagram. But I had to take the challenge and I had to do some studies, especially in the areas that I was asked to speak. Let me apologize again that when I was given the topic, it was so broad. And I was also told that I'll have 15-20 minutes to speak. I was asked to speak on reimagining the soul of our cities within the Islamic perspectives and as it relates to genetics. I found that topic so wide, so broad, that to integrate it, I will need more than 20 minutes. So I have to cut off some parts of it. And then my topic that I changed it to, and I've discussed with the facilitator, and he has agreed that I should go ahead with it, was reimagining the soul of our cities within the Islamic perspectives. I had to stop there so that I will be able to maximize the period I was given. I have been given the opportunity to share, so I'm sharing my slides now. I hope it is visible enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I start with a definition. What is soul, or what is a soul? I observed that three areas can actually be used to approach it from a religious perspective, from a philosophical perspective, and from the mythological perspective. But the three of them converge to say that it is an incorporeal essence of a living being, and that comprises the mental abilities of a living, the reason, the character, the feeling, the consciousness, the memory, the perception, the thinking, and all what of it that you can think about. But more specifically, defining it in the religious aspect of it, it is the spiritual or immaterial part of a human being as regarded as immortal. But in the art as perspective, it is the emotional or intellectual energy or intensity, especially as revealed in a work of art or an artistic performance. Then I tried to look at it from an architect, Anatatel Atere, who tried to define it and define it in such a way that he said the soul of the material body are elements of the structure of a human existence. I also tried to look at it from the philosophical aspect of it. I looked at what Plato said about it. Plato said we consider the soul as the essence of the person and it decides about the behavior. It consists of the reason, the lust, and the impulsiveness, that is the emotion of that person. And he conclusively said it is has its place in a balanced and a peaceful soul. Aristotle told us that we should understand the outside world and the consciousness itself forming the whole body. Other people like Thomas Aquinas, Otto Schopenhauer, and George Well, they also made some contributions towards what soul is. For example, Otto saw man as a soul within the body as an instrument. And Hegel said soul is a spirit and is composed of subjective spirit, objective spirit, and absolute spirit. So when we look at it from the three perspectives, one can come to the conclusion that the image of the soul in philosophy is reflected in the art, the architecture, and the urban planning, especially when it's related to the personality and the body of every human being. And the concept of soul has changed and evolved over the centuries under the influence of the prevailing doctrines. We've just been told something about from the Awishte now, about the theology. Even science has come to play some part in defining and telling us what the soul is. And it goes on like that. But when we want to define soul, is the union of a pre-existing God-made spirit and a temporal body which is formed by physical conception on earth. That is, soul cannot be removed completely from the body, while the body can also not be removed completely from the soul. And after death, the spirit continues to live, and the progress in the spirit world until the resurrection, when it is united with the body that it forms. Now, Now, what is the soul of a person? It is the spirit and essence of that person, part of you that makes you who you are, and that will live on after your death. Is the part that is the religious aspect of it that will go to heaven or go to hell. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I cannot move my slide further. Okay. The next question I want to ask is, where is the soul in the body? There are so many conjectures about it. Some people say it's in the brain, some say it is in the lungs, some say it is in the heart, some say it is in the third eye, the pineal body. But generally, there is no consensus about where the soul is located. We can only say that the soul is somewhere. I'm having some issues with moving my slide. I hope you are not touching it. Now, the next slide is the soul of the universe. I'm coming home now. I will soon get to the soul of the city. The soul of the universe, as it is harmonious. I picked that also from what was said by the Awishe. There is some element of excellent mathematical proportions corresponding to the visual as well as the auditory spheres. Even Pythagoras told us that the soul of the universe is in harmony. There is some connection which makes the human perception to be at peace. So the soul combines what we can refer to as tranquility, harmony, serenity, and peace in all spheres for the living and the non-living to coexist. In biology, we have a concept called ecosystem, where the living and the non-living are expected to coexist, integrate, and live in harmony. The same thing happens to the soul within the universe. Now, the next slide is the soul of architecture and urban planning, where we are going. The philosophy of the soul refers to the human body. The philosophy of man and the philosophy of the building that man lives in. The philosophy of the community will correspond to the philosophy of the city. In other words, if the building, the house that is housing the man with his soul is in harmony, is at peace, then the community will be at peace. And then the city will also be at peace. So you can put together that the soul makes the city live or the city alive. Now, the soul in architecture is closely integrated with the souls of the inhabitants. And the soul of the inhabitants interact with the space they occupy. So, souls of the people with the soul of the city become a valuable element that through aesthetic experiences leads to an ever better understanding of the surrounding space. If we understand that the soul is at peace within the body, and then the body is at peace within the building that has been constructed by the builders, by the architects, and it has taken into consideration both the animate and the inanimate in that environment, then the community will be at peace, and then the city will be at peace. And so that's why I said in my last statement in that slide that the soul makes the city live. There are some factors in the cities which are necessary to make this tranquility on the port burner. The rational element, that's the law and the rules that guide the living in that community. The timeless factors, which are good ideas, image, pride, and then the eros factors, which represent that satisfy the temporal needs of every individual. Now, there is supposed to be a rationale for harmony of soul and the city. I have said it, the laws and the rules. The elements of the laws are the factors that serve the temporal needs. Emotional elements are the factors representing the lofty ideas that are the source of the image and pride. So the balance of all these factors leads to a balanced and harmonious development of the city. Now let me take it a bit to the soul in Islam. In Sufism, it is referred to as ruh. In Arabic, plural is aura. It is defined as the person's immortal, essential self. In some Quranic aspects, they mention it as the spirit or the soul. The Quran itself does not describe ruh as immortal. There is a chapter of the Holy Quran, Quran chapter 17, verses 85, Surah Al-Isra, which is the Surah of the Night of Journey, where it was written that, and they ask you, O Muhammad, about the soul. Say the soul is of the affair of my Lord, and mankind have not been given of knowledge except a little. Where I'm drawing out there is that whatever we know about the soul today, it is stated that we have just have a simple, a very little idea of it. And that is what the Quran says about the concept of the soul. Now, soul in Islam, nevertheless, in some contexts, one can say it animates and inanimate matter, and that it has to do with ego and of course of the soul in man. And since I am speaking about the Islamic perspective, I want to take us to an Islamic society. What does Islamic society mean to relationship with the soul? Now, a society in which Islamic culture is dominant is what I'm taking as my definition of Islamic culture. And where an Islamic community is dominant, you expect a mosque or an Islamic center, which is a place where Muslims pray. And in the mosque, it's a place to gather for prayers. It is a place to study. It's a place to celebrate festivals. It can also be used to house schools and community centers. The concept of a mosque is actually more than what I have highlighted here. The soul in Islamic philosophy, as I said, the human soul was the main focus. Because as I said, if you have a ladder, the base is the human soul. If the human soul in Islamic philosophy is the original point, then it radiates through the community to the entire world. And in Islamic philosophy, some authors like Ibn Sina said the rational soul had no beginning or end. And that is leaning on the Quranic verse that we have a very little knowledge of it. Ibn Rushd said the soul and his past come together and were destroyed at death. That one said at death, that is the end of it. But there are some non-rational and rational aspects of the life of the soul. The non-rational aspects are the plant and animal souls, but the rational aspects are the practical and the theoretical intellect in the man. Now, what does a mosque symbolize in the community? In Arabic, mosque is actually called a masjid, and it is a place of prostration. It is a place of knowledge. It is a place or a region of strategic development. It's a center of research, as it has been happening during the periods before the Holocaust, where in Spain, in aspects of it has been the area of research. A lot of researches that were done by the early Muslim scholars based on human development of concern here. It's also a zone of administration, because during the life of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, the mosque is like the Aso Rock. The mosque is where administration takes the root. It's the solace for panacea for injustice. It is also the focal point for harmony and peace. It is also a place where political understanding is taking place. I have a very good example in Colombia, in somewhere in Europe before, in Spain. There is an ancient place called Medina Azahara as an example. Now that community is a very good example to show the relevance of mosque in our contemporary world today. You have it on your screen. The ancient is the one on the left. Then when it has been rebuilt, the remodeled one is the one on the right. Now, the workings of this mosque is a place that looks like a palace, very big, gigantic, magnificent, that it's during that period, people come from Europe and they flock to visit the place. Foreign ambassadors come to visit the place with their horses in Cordoba, and they do a lot of how do I put it now? A lot of discussions like the United Nations of now in that place. And when they are coming, they are accorded a lot of peaceful greetings and so on along about kilometers. And once inside the palace, they were led past a mercury pool that shimmered with every breeze. Then from one magnificent room to another, all filled with sumptuous dressed Moorish dignitaries before finally meeting the Caliph, showing the symbol of a conscientious soul that is at peace, because it provided the soul of the community. The mosque at that period then provided the soul for the community, so they experienced or expressed that in what they accorded their visitors in those periods. The features of the mosque, it was opulent. The walls and pillars were encrusted with amber, corals, and jewels. The praying area is called the Little Sister because of the way it was designed. The complex not only included the Caliph's private residence, it also has a court, there has a quarter, it has the army barracks, it has the schools, it has the garden. In short, it was an entire self-sustaining town independent of the bigger town. These are the features Islam expects a mosque to possess to act as the soul of the community. Whether that is now being done all over the world is another point of concern that we need to actually look at. Whether the mosques are designed in that way, and then they are also being used in that way, whether it is an Islamic country or an Islamic country. I have some slides in the next 3 slides, pictures showing different communities. I am putting it to you to be able to see whether it is at peace with mind or it's not at peace with your mind. If you look at the one on the left, Makoko, and the one on the right, which is Badagry Beach, I am leaving you to be able to make a decision on that. We have Abuja, then we have Surulere. I'm also leaving you to make a decision on that. We have Lagos Island, and we have the new Lekki new city. If I ask anybody now which one we want to live, we can make a decision by ourselves. Now, I have made a statement. The soul, the community, they must be at peace. But in modern metropolis that has been designed by builders, by architects, by those of us living there, is there a balance? My answer is there is imbalance. And the modern metropolis have lost humanity and excitement because a lot of places don't have what it takes to give that peace. The imbalance exists between the human and the artificial drivers. Pollution is there. Industrialization is there. There is imbalance between the body and the mind. A lot of diseases. We are battling with corona. We are battling with cancer. We don't understand how to solve their problem. There is a lot of imbalance between male and female factors. If you look at the slide on your side, how do we see color? A man will see only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors. But a woman will see about 30 colors in what a man sees as 7. It's a conflict. Look at the one for, let's take violet. A man will say all this thing is violet. But the woman will say, no, it's plum, it's eggplant, it's grape, it's purple, it's lavender. That is imbalance. There are some predictable and unpredictable factors. We have educated and non-educated factors that conflict, that cause imbalance. Religious and non-religious, we know of what is happening in Boko Haram, is an imbalance. Social and non-social, some of us like social things. We want nightclub to be here, nightclub to be there. Some don't want it. We have political and apolitical factors, which also is a problem. Now I have about 4 more slides. Architectural styles and modern technology. The current architectural styles no longer keep up with the technology and need of the residents. I know I'll be taking up on this. The development of methods of design is crucial.
I think we need to bring in Dr. Paul Otiko, then we'll come back to you so that you continue with...
I have only 4 slides. Can you just let me finish my slides?
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just finish. I have only 4 more slides.
All right, sir.
The development of methods of design is crucial to improve more friendly, provoking, and interpersonal interactions and love. The creation of surroundings for plants and animals that satisfy all these needs of residents. Pope John Paul II wrote that the architects have responsibility to design following God's example. Such places like nature should be encouraged. They should provoke people for human behavior and actions to prevent from consequences, cruelty, and aggression of age of technology. They must also bring together ecology, aesthetics, culture, and security. Such souls create the city to be alive, and that leads to sustainable and harmonious development of the city. Recall that the buildings have their own gestures, they have their own things to also, and technology has infiltrated into us. We need to be more conscious. We need to also be more strategic in our design. Conclusively, presence of places for the soul in the city will make the city more humane and friendly in everyday use. Places of meditation like the mosque will make possible to find the soul in people and value emotional development. It is worth developing a place of meditation which will improve the quality of life and aesthetic experience of the inhabitants. The good quality of architecture satisfies these needs for communion and enjoyment of the souls, and it brings forth positive aesthetic emotion. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Professor Khalid Adekoya. We thank you for your expository research work that you have delivered. We thank you so much. And on this note, we call on again, we want to tender apology concerning the slide is as a result of the network issue, and we're working so much to fix all these network issues. Please bear with us as we work on it. And again, we're going to make our slides available online for all of us to have access to. So I would like to call on the next speaker so as to have what it means from the perspective of a Christian, what it means to us, the soul of the city. I will call on the next speaker so as to tell us his view on Christianity perspective. It's my pleasure to call on Dr. Akinmayowa Akin Otiko. He's a senior researcher, Institute of African Studies, a religious worshiper, Institute of African and Diaspora Study, University of Lagos, research interest in religion and culture of the Yoruba in Nigeria. Please, Dr. Akinmayowa Otiko, you can share your slide now.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very delighted. I'll just in 1 second share my slides. I am from the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies, and today I'm delighted, and I will be speaking from the point of an African scholar.
Dr. Otiko, are you still online? Oh, we lost him just now. Okay, are you back, Dr. Otiko? Can you hear us?
We can't hear you.
We cannot hear you, Dr. Otiko. Dr. Otiko, please. Can we get TPL Badejo ready so that we can come back to Dr. Otiko later?
Because the rain is smashing.
We understand that the network is so bad because of the rain. Can we have TPL Badejo?
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I hope the line will be okay.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much. Yes. Now, I'm giving, well, thank you also for inviting me to this webinar and to talk on the soul of the city as a tool for urban prosperity. Well, it's my pleasure to be here today. Yeah, it's very interesting to have listened to two other speakers. And I'm sure they have done justice to the topic. But let me take it from the planning point of view. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Yeah, preamble. Yeah, I don't want to Associate Professor Adekoya dealt extensively with the definitions. I don't want to deal with the definitions of the soul of the city. But I would just say in a nutshell, the soul of a city, we can look at it from the context of a living being. Can you, yes, you can, yeah. It can be seen from the context of a living being or a city. The great philosophers says that the soul is located in the lungs or the heart and coordinated by the brain. Both the Awishe of Egbaland and Professor Adekoya dealt extensively with that. I don't want to order the listener to that details again. But one thing is very important that we need all to know: the soul is unique and it to every person. So also it is not visible, like it has been said. It is not visible, and just like the soul of a city. The soul is also it's like a DNA. The DNA in the science world, the full name of the DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is not commonly called the DNA. Every city has their DNA. Every city has its own DNA, just like every person has a DNA. The DNA of every person, you can find it in the finger, on their eyeball, the biometric thing. No, but that's not what we are going to, I'm saying now. Now, let's look at what is the DNA of any city? The DNA of any city is very unique to that city. And what is it? These are the coordinates of that city. The coordinate of Lagos is different from the coordinate, even Lagos Island is different from the coordinate of Ikeja. So also the coordinate of Ikeja is different from the coordinate of any city in Nigeria. That is, when you are talking of the coordinate, you are talking of the longitude and the latitude. This coordinate of this city cannot be seen with the naked eye, but can be determined with instruments. I will come to that later. Now, just like it is unique in every person, so it's also unique in the city. Now, if you look at it now, what is the soul of this city? I refer to the soul of this city as it can be measured. The soul of the city can be measured, can be quantified, it can be in quantity, and it can be differentiated. But the infrastructure of any city is the soul of that city. That's where I'm going to. The infrastructure of that city is the soul of that city. And what are these infrastructure we are talking about? Let's look at the public open spaces. This can be synonymous to the lungs in human being. Now, if there is no public open spaces, the city will look choked. It's just like a living being that doesn't have a lung to breathe. And there's this what I refer to as the soul, the soul of that city. Then the road networks in that city is like the blood circulation system that supplies food to all parts of our body, the brain, the legs, the hand, the intestine, and everything. And if this circulatory system, the simple elementary blood circulation that we did in elementary school or secondary school, if this circulation system, blood circulation system, is not flowing properly, that city will have problem. And that's exactly, it's just like the road network that you find in every city. Then when you look at the drainage of any city, the drainage network is like the skin, the pores in the skin, you know, the hair pores in the skin that when you sweat, the water comes out, or your taste bud, your mouth. If your mouth is, if you are not healthy, you cannot take in anything into, you cannot ingest any water or any food into your system. And this affects what you take in and what you release eventually through urine and things like that. Then when we want to look at maybe the hospitals. The hospitals of the cities, of every city, like the antibodies, the natural antibodies in human being that fight against germs and things like that. And this leads us to what one speaker just mentioned, the COVID-19 that we are facing in this country. We also now know the impact on our health facilities. And it's suddenly means that you notice that most of the governors or all the high-placed politicians that serve in any state for 4 years, 8 years, that they are not proud to go to the hospitals they administer upon for 4 years or 8 years. This is a failure of any government or any chairman of any local government. If you can serve any state or any local government for 4 years or 8 years, and you are not proud to go to that hospital for treatment, it shows that that's a failure of you. Let's leave that as it is. Now, another important thing which I want us to look at is the sewer networks, which serve of every city, which serves like the waste, like the kidney that they congest the waste into our urine and things like that. Then, when we look at the prosperous cities, if one takes care of where to work, where to live, a prosperous city takes care of where to live, where you are going to live. The last speaker, Professor Adekoya, mentioned where to live in the Islamic realm and things like that, you know. But where to live, where to work, where to recreate, and particularly where to inter. That is the cemeteries, where you are going to, everybody is the final home for everybody. We are lucky in this country again, I would say, that we have not witnessed high mortality rate in this country, in this country with this pandemic. If we had to be like city, like a country like Italy, or the city like New York and Bogota in Colombia and all the others, even in Brazil, that what they are facing now, no cemetery or no city in Lagos or let's say in Nigeria that can accommodate 1,000 deaths at a time. And in these cities, you are finding 2,000, 5,000 deaths in a day. That's another thing for us to look at. Now, let's go into the next slide. The availability and efficiency. The availability and efficiency in the infrastructure of the city determines its prosperity. The next slide, please. Yes. Thank you. Hold on. Go back. Yes. So when we look at it, then you want to look at this one vis-a-vis the value. you want to look at this vis-a-vis the value. You can zoom in. You can vis-a-vis the value by individual. How does individual value the city that is living? The corporate body, how do they value the city or the state and things like that? Then the perception, the image everybody gives to that city, the investment opportunity, and the quality of living. Now, that leads me to this. The next slide, please. Yeah, the DNA of Lagos as perceived by US Delta Airline 54 on July 2016. That was just about a year ago. I was returning from New York in Delta Airline, just some few minutes to land. And there was an announcement from inside the aircraft that we are about to land in the next 5 minutes or 6 minutes in Lagos. It is raining in Lagos, and that the woman you're saying there said that anytime that it rains in Lagos, there is wahala, and that is the DNA of Lagos in another way. The DNA, but the real DNA of Lagos that can be measured, the DNA of Lagos that cannot be seen, but that can be measured with an instrument, is 6.5244 degree north and 3.3792 degree east. This coordinate is only unique to Lagos. But when you want to look at Lagos in terms of length and breadth, the coordinate you are going to get in eastern part of Lagos, let's say the eastern part of Lagos city, let's assume Shangotedo in the east. The coordinate in the east, the northeast coordinate you will find in Shangotedo is different from the coordinates you are going to find, let's say, at Lasu area, or what do you call it, Janikin in the west. That's the where you are looking at. But this coordinate is only unique to Lagos. That's how nature has done it. You cannot find these two coordinates in anywhere all over the world. And the DNA of a city, one is natural and very unique to that city. The second one is man-made or could be natural, and the man-made is what we just the air hostess mentioned. I had to take photograph with the air hostess for her to have recognized Lagos, the other DNA of Lagos, which I would say is man-made. That is, anytime it rains in Lagos, there is always wahala. And what led us to that? Can you go to the next slide? Can you go to the next slide? The next, oh God. The next slide, please. This is what I refer to as desilting. I don't know, I'm not on that slide. Mr. Esau, are you on that slide?
Which slide, sir?
Can you go to the next slide? Desilting of doing along Wemco Road, Lagos. The next slide. Are you there? I can't see it.
I'm there.
It's okay if you are there. It's okay, never mind. It's okay. Yeah, very good. No.
Okay. Is this one? Block drain inlets by residents in selected neighborhoods.
Focus on
Network. Dr. Badejo, you can please unmute yourself.
It's okay. Oh, sorry. It's okay. Oh, sorry. Hello?
Hello, we
Can you hear me now? Yes, sorry. You can see the same thing of drains along Wemco Road. You can see the heaps. Can you see the different heaps? These are what bottles, plastic bottles of different soft drinks or drinks from different parts of Lagos that were removed from underground drainage in Lagos at Wemco, at just one drainage. And by the time I took this photograph, you can, about 4 trucks of 20 tons, trucks were already removed from these heaps of refuse you are seeing here. And you can see that is what harmed the second DNA of Lagos. That I said that the second is man-made, and it's because this drainage have been settled. But before we go to that, I think I missed one slide. You can see most of our drains, maybe if we go back a little bit, most of our drains are not well protected. You can see that drain. You can see the drain effect of unprotected drain inlet. See that drain on the left with a bottle of Pepsi or something like that. That's what led to the heaps of plastic bottles that were brought out from the underground drainage. So just in one place in Wemco area. The Lagos State is really trying, let me speak to them, by this effort. But why does it take this long? It took maybe years, maybe in the last 4 or 5, 8 years that the road was constructed, that there was no single cleaning of this drain for it to have amounted to this. And another thing that leads to this is that because we don't protect our drainage inlets, you can see the other drain with drain protection. I don't know why most of the drains that we construct nowadays in Lagos or most parts of Nigeria, they are not protected. If they are not protected, if our drains inlets are not protected, then we shall continue to have this type of heaps of plastic bottles in our drains, which is not good. Another factor that always leads to flooding in Lagos anytime this time of the year during the rainy season is because the way most of our drains were constructed. Most of our drains were constructed wrongly in the sense that the drain inlet is at right angle, whereas most of them supposed to be at an acute angle along the grade. But in some cases, if the flow of the drain is to one side, of course, right angle is the best for maximum intake of the water. Now, you now go to block drains in other parts of Lagos. You can see the next slide. The block drains in other parts of Lagos. Can you see that? You can see, a lot of people deliberately block drain inlets, and the government is not doing anything about it. And that's what hands us our second image, the DNA I said, by that lady that said anytime it rains in Lagos, there is wahala. She was warning all the passengers in the aircraft that are getting down in Lagos that they should be ready for it. You can see on the right side, you can see on the driving to the shoulder, even to a walkway. It's not to a walkway. The government walkway, public walkway has been blocked. About 2 drain inlets there have been blocked. Compared with, you can see on the left side, there's only one that was not blocked, whereas about 2 others have been blocked. That's why the 2 photographs were shown. Now, you can now also see that in other parts of Lagos where on the lower photograph, when you see the other photograph, the lower one, the one on the right side, that was taken at Lekki, at a street at Lekki, you will see that the drain inlet has been completely blocked. Maybe a lot of people are ignorant of this. And if they are ignorant of it, I believe the right government agency is supposed to correct this, for people to be blocking the drain inlets to the public drains. That's why you are having that pool of water, and this is going to destroy the road. You can see another person on the left side with that huge of what you call it, diving, about 1.5 meter dive into the road. This is suicidal for any bike rider or car rider, or even any person that's driving on that road, because it's going to hit the driveway, and this is going to be very suicidal. Now we can now see the next slide, please. Hello? Are you on the next slide? Yes. The effect of poor drain system on roads and transportation. You can see on the left side, that is a particular where maybe the underground drains has been stated for years, and you can see what it has resulted to. The rain is bad. It's going to cost the state a lot of money to repair this road. And you can see the impact on the other one on the right side. You can imagine the number of man-hours that will be lost on this road, the health issues and water bill. And this is what and Lagos, like I said, the second DNA. That is, anytime it rains in Lagos, you know, it is wala. That is, apart from that, it's costing the state a lot of money to repair this road, to clean the drains. But what I'm advocating here is that we need to cleanse our drains regularly, at least once in a week, if we cannot do it every day. The idea that we shall be cleaning our drains just once in a year, or when it's raining, the rainy season is coming, everybody starts struggling, you know, all hands will be on deck to start distancing the drain. We cannot.
I'll give you like 1 month.
Yes, I'm about to round up. And the other, I just have another 2 or 3 slides. The next one is the lack of public open spaces. Anytime that it rains, anytime that there is a knockdown or there is stay at home in Lagos, you only find that there is nowhere to recreate in Lagos. Everybody takes to the road. That's why you find the kids playing on the road on the left side, and you can see that huge number of people during the last lockdown, you know, exercising on major highway. That's the Oworonchoke Express, doing the exercise. Now the final one, which handles, anytime I look at this, I continue to wonder what is happening to our monetary policy. I call it a failed monetary policy, because there is nowhere in the country, in the world, that you will go and you want to take money from the ATM, that the highest denomination currency that you will find. You can see that's ATM you are seeing here. Are you on that slide? Yes. The ATM you are seeing, you can see that's about 6 ATMs at a bank in Lagos. 6 ATM. I waited, I studied these ATMs, you know, all of them. Out of the 6 ATMs, only 1 ATM that is dispensing 500 notes. The other ATMs are dispensing 1,000 bill notes. What a country are we? We have already devalued our money. You are saying that If I want to take 200 naira, I cannot go to ATM. 100 naira, and even when you go to the bank, you can't get this money. This 200 naira currency, 100 currency, or 50 naira, 20 naira, you can't get it. And that's the how you can imagine it. What it is when you are spending this money in the society and the kind of cities or we are developing or we are encouraging. Almost everywhere in the world, the best currency you will see is there. Maybe the second or the third of their currency. You know the maximum currency like 1,000 we have, or I'm sure if in the next few years 5,000 naira note comes in, that will be only the currency that our ATM will be dispensing. This is not very encouraging. Now, on this note, I would say the last this last slide. As a people, we need to be more disciplined in terms of how we use our public facilities, and also the government will need to be more proactive in reimaging of our city for Ban's prosperity. Thank you very much. I hope I have not eaten too much into. I spoke less than 20 minutes.
TP Obadijo is an insightful.
I started just about 5 minutes to 2.
Go back, please.
Come again?
Otiko.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad I'm back, and I want to share my thoughts. I'll be sharing my screen about the slides now. What I'm going to be doing today is to talk about the soul of the city from an African perspective. I'm a Catholic priest, yes, but I would want to do it from an African perspective. And so what is very important to me here is I won't go through the details.
Dr. Tiko. Dr. Tiko, we can't hear you. You can unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
You've muted yourself again. Please unmute.
All right.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I want to do, can you also see my screen being shared?
Yes.
Okay. If you can help me with, I don't know what's going on. From my side, it's not sharing, but let me just speak to the slides. What I want to do is to first talk about the distinction between what is essence. The soul of a city is the essence.
Dr. Tiko, do you like me to share your screen for you from my hand?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right. Please hold on.
Thank you very much. So the first thing I want to do is to talk about the soul. We've had so many definitions of the soul, but I just want to say precisely that the soul is the essence. That's the first slide. The soul is the essence of a thing, that which makes something what it is, that which makes something what it is. That's what we need to keep in mind when we talk about a soul. And that's what I'll be making reference to when I'm talking about a soul here. Now, the second thing I want us to keep in mind is the accident. Accidents are those things that change, such as the demography, jobs, ethnic associations. These things can change in the soul of a city. Otherwise, the soul remains. The soul is the essence of the city, such as the first speaker had made reference to, the religion, the history, the art. These are the essence. These are the things that define a soul. And I was very happy when Dr. Khalid was describing an Islamic city. An Islamic city has that which defines it. So I am speaking as a scholar in African studies, and I'm looking at reimagining the souls of our city from an African scholar's perspective. What is a city? As we have heard, we've heard different definitions of the city. And I'm doing this because I need us to have these definitions in mind. The first thing is that it is a large settlement of people. It is defined. It is densely populated. It is distinguished from the rural place. And so the people there would have a need of things that are essential, such as housing, transportation, sanitation, utilities, communications. These are things that are needed. They do not define the soul of the city, but they are needed in a city. So what we have had is that in the context of the African cities, these things that are needed, these accidents that change, demography, road network, all of these things that can change, that are referred to as accidents. Can we go to the next slide, please? All these things that are referred to as, they change, and they have over the time defined our cities. Now, reimagining or reinterpreting our cities would mean what? An African city should be an African city. As a city, you should have all those things we have talked about: sanitary, transportation, housing, communication. All of those things should be there. But it must still have that unchangeable element, that soul, which is African. So an African city must have an African soul. Today we are reimagining because those things that develop in the city, the accidents, have over the years made the soul of our cities disappear. And what do I mean? Today you look at an African city and you call that which is African old. You call it irrelevant. You call it pagan. You say we can do away with them. And I'll be making quick references to them very soon. What we have today are Western, and we call them modern. We forget that European cities, today we can talk about European cities because the souls are very distinguished. They are clear in these cities. If you go to Amsterdam today, you will be able to see their theater, and they celebrate it. You will see their waterway. That is what defines Amsterdam, not the new buildings, not the new roads. If you go to Rome today, you will see basilicas. You will see piazzas. These are things that define the city. You go to Mecca today, you see mosques, you see historic sites. These are the things that define the city. That is the soul of the city. The soul of the city, as the first speaker had said, they tell the story of the city. They tell the history of the city. they ensure that character of the city. Now, basically what I have been trying to do is to let us make a distinction as we are rethinking, reimagining the African city. To say this is essential, these are accidents. All those things that make up a city must be around the essence of the city. The last speaker, Dr. Bijo, I love when he was talking about DNA that is changeable, the soul of a city is not changeable. So if the elements of the city are not well developed, the soul of the city should still be there. The next slide. Now, what is the importance of reimagining? The value of reimagining. The first thing is that it helps us to ask fundamental question. What is the image of an African city? What do we have today? What we have today are modern European cities. And note what I'm saying. They are not European cities because they don't have the soul of Europe. They don't tell the story of Europe. They don't have the history of Europe. What we have are modern. And we're using these accidents to remove the essence, the soul of our cities. The architects, the urban planners, the builders, they go, they see, they copy, they return, and they impose on us, such that we have the voice of Jacob and the skin of Esau. We cannot tell that this is an African city. An African city must have a soul that is typical, that is essential, that is African. Now, if you go to look at our cities today, there is nothing like Ujo de Oba. There's nothing like it. If you ask anybody in Lagos, where is that? He will say, what are you talking about? There's nothing like the Odun Isheshe sport, where you gather to celebrate our soul, our life, our history. Take Lekki Phase 1, for example. What is African about Lekki Phase 1? What is there? It is a city, yes. It is not even up to European cities. Neither is it an African city. So what is it? The value of what we're doing today, when we're reimagining the souls of our city, must be able to say what is essential, what is accident. What is essential must be African. We must be able to tell our history, must be able to tell that which makes this city an African city. In spite of all the elements of a city, the good roads, the communication, the information, all of those things must come in, but the soul of the city must be there. Next slide. What then must we do? We must be able to define what is essential, that is, what is the soul, and be able to distinguish it from the accident. If we do not distinguish the accident from the essence, then we're going to create Europe in Africa, modern Europe in Africa. There is no city in Europe today that you go to that you cannot tell what that city represents. Go to Turkey. Even in Turkey, the soul of Turkey is told by the history of Turkey. First, it was Christian. Today, it is Muslim. The soul tells it. So African cities cannot be compared to European cities. We must know that every city has got its soul. The first speaker talked about Ifa defining how a city was started. So every soul is unique. Accidents can evolve. And what do I mean by accident? Roads can evolve, more buildings can evolve, communication can evolve, science can evolve. All of this must evolve, but they must evolve around that which is the essence. And the essence is the soul. From the perspective of an African, our religion is part of our soul. Our tradition is part of our soul. Our history is part of our soul. It does not mean that we must impose state religion or we must go back to ancient things, but we must let our cities begin to reflect who we are as Africans. The soul of our cities cannot be denied the nature. It cannot be denied the Africanness it should be. I was watching a program yesterday and someone was talking about New York changing its nature. It's changing the demography because people are working from home now. So you don't need so many cars. You don't need as many offices. You don't need all the traffic that you've been having because people are moving back to their villages and they can still work from home. Microsoft will employ more people working from home. Facebook will employ more people working from home. So all this demographic will change. All this population will change. These are accidents of a city. A city is a place where people cohabit, but it is defined by that which is unchangeable, and that is the Africanness of the city. I have given this to rouse thoughts, to rouse thinking, to make us begin to go back and ask, why are we doing this reimagining? We're reimagining not just to bring Europe to Africa. We're reimagining not just to make our cities look good. We are reimagining because we want our cities to be African cities, cities of excellence, smart cities, but still African cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Otiko. We really appreciate your wonderful presentation. I will call on the next presenter for today, who is going to round everything up. And thereafter, we'll welcome questions and comments and answer from all of you over there. So if you have comments or questions, you can please forward to our comment section so that we can have our panelists do justice to that. Then, quickly, I want to bring on to the platform Dr. Basil Agoha Oyekusuri, post BSc, MSc, and PhD degree in architecture, experience and interest in rural planning, urban design, spatial organization of landscape, housing network, project management, finance, and education, senior lecturer, Department of Architecture, and associate dean, Faculty of Environmental Science, Chukwuemeka Udegu University, Anambra State, Nigeria. Please, you are welcome. Can we have your slide, please, sir?
Sure.
I will share so that you can talk over your slide, sir. Thank you. Are you there, sir? Dr. Agoha, you can unmute yourself. Sir, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. So the city is defined by spaces, and the spaces you can have interior spaces, building interior spaces and exterior spaces, and these spaces collectively make up the whole, or what we can call a urban area, the holistic area. And these elements you have that make up the whole, whether building, whether drainages, infrastructure, this and that, what we call them, they interact. So the interaction of these elements in the city under a planned atmosphere is what we call urbanism. And the interactions, we have to understand that as a result of the interactions can be physical, even though by way of policy, physical issues can come into play, but those physical issues generate economic issues, generate cultural issues, psychological issues, and they create other environments, seen and unseen. And these environments are all interacting, making the city the defined area and dynamic. So a city is not static, but dynamic, whether from the point of view of living things or non-living things. If you pick any aspect of it, whether economic, you have networks of interactions. Pick cultural, you have networks. Pick infrastructure, you have networks of interaction. So the city is always in a move, on a move, is dynamic. And the city is also a place of convergence. Because of that, because of those things available, the city becomes a place of convergence and placemaking, attracting people. So people, those things that are being attracted, they form a convergence or make the city a placemaking. And that convergence, people who come into the city have a lot of things in common. The issue is that every person in the city looks at the city as a place of opportunity. And these opportunities are created by industries, employment, infrastructure, socioeconomic activities. And these even increase the interactions. And the interactions can create positive, both positive and negative circumstances. Positive improves the welfare of the people, while negative deteriorates or reduces the and these are created as a result of struggle. And that is why some people have defined the city from an ideological point of view, that whatever happens, that the city has two major groups. The capitalists, depending on the level, may be some extreme, it may be some that are human, and the working class, the proletariats. And with these two groups, there's always the struggle for the survival of individuals in an attempt to make ends meet. And this survival now creates a situation where you now have what somebody like Darwin explained in his famous theory, leading to a survival of the fittest. And in that survival of the fittest, people now have to adapt. You have to adapt to situations. If you can survive in the city, you must adapt. And some even create a lot of variations. There must be some variations. Those variations may be genetic, actually. That is why the environment, the city environment, can trigger a lot of genetic changes in human beings, genetic changes in the both physical and organic. Somebody has mentioned the DNA. The DNA, even though it talked about from the physical point of view, it also can be seen from even living point of view, because some of the adverse environmental issues, they change the configuration of the DNA of human beings, of man, creating a lot of some negative, some positive behaviors. And this makes some people now move into what we call that the end justifies the means. Some people are led into behaving to say that the end justifies the means. And that is why you can have a lot of underprivileged people who are mainly found in the working class area. They engage in activities that seem to suggest that they look at the system as very oppressive, and they react by a lot of deviant tendencies, violence, behavior, crimes. So these things you find in the city as a result of, as an outcome of the struggle, and the struggle between the working class and the capitalists. and an attempt for everyone to catch as much as he or she can from the opportunities that are perceived in the city. So this struggle happens in the city and can never be avoided. A principle you see, and they happen in the innermost part of the city. The soul has been defined as the innermost or the central or strongest part of a man, and applying it to the city, you find out that the model of the city where we have the core of the city, the suburban, and the peripheral area, while with the city, the core urban area having all the activities, economic, social, cultural, and what have you, so that it is at the center of the city that this struggle or these activities, whether positive or negative, are found. So that is where you have the city, at the center of the city, where you have this struggle and a lot of the conflicts, and the crime rate is high, environmental problems are there, the capitalist tendencies are there. So the core of the city, looking at the city model of the core, the outer city, the inner city, and the middle city, you'll find out that the struggle happens in the inner parts. There's another model of the city where you have a nucleic versus the multi-nucleic area. You still find out that the nucleic area is the core where a lot of things happen and where people perceive opportunities and feel that that is where they get the opportunities, and then the struggle is more intense at the center. And that is where you have disorientation, where you have environmental pollution, where you have a goal, why the negative effects reduce the value and make people not to achieve its goal. So the city can be perceived from the point of view of soul and urbanism. If we see the city as a network of interaction, as a network of activities that are closely linked, then I have the city defined from some perspective. One is sustainability, that the city has a value of sustainability, where you have networks, where you have connectivity, continuity, and intelligence. People, it behaves like an intelligent being. We also have the city. Another perspective of the city is the greening of the city, and this is where you have open spaces and landscapes, neighborhood structures, and morphology defining the city. Somebody who spoke earlier was talking about recreation and people recreating and doing all sorts of things to leisure. So a green city accommodates that. Then you have another perspective of seeing the city as interactive, that the city is very, very active. It's not dormant, it's not inactive. And because of this interactive nature, people see the city as where they can improve the quality of life. We also have an active, daily active city where you have people who look upon the city as a place where they must go out, and these people depend on their livelihood, depends on their daily going out and looking for what to eat. That is why when we had this lockdown, a lot of people were crying because majority of the people in the city are those who depend on their daily activities. So the city has also this aspect. You have another concept that where the city is citizen-led, where the citizens dictate what happens, they create short-term, they create low-cost actions that will have long-term effects so as to improve their livelihood. We also have another perspective of the city that looks at the city as an integrative entity. In an integrative entity, because of the struggle and the negative effects that result, the city needs a government. The city needs policymakers. The city needs some ordinance, some bylaws. The city needs neighborhoods and communities that will be able to checkmate the extremes of the negative tendencies. So this look at the city as an integrative aspect, because when all the integrative issues are in place, the city becomes coherent. There's another perspective that looks at the city as like an analogy of a human being, having body, having spirit, and then having soul. And under that situation, the city is seen as one entity, because a human being is made up of these three entities, and is a unit. In this model perspective, the city is seen as a unit, in which case your sex or your gender being what will determine your survival. Thereupon, like in Nigeria, the state of origin, where your mother comes from, it doesn't look at that. Culturally, the culture in the city, you have culture. There's a mixture of culture. And so, because of these things, there is no limitation in a city. And a city, and a city with a positive urbanism, there's nothing like a discrimination. And that is why every person has opportunity to develop. We also see the city, some people also see the city as a place where there is continuous learning, that you can never learn enough about the city, you can never study enough about the city. This makes a city an issue of study in education for students, for lecturers, for stakeholders, and all those who are living in the city. So the city is there to educate them, to make them acquire new skills and develop new ways of survival. It also sees them as people that every person in the city has something to contribute. So in the city, no person is a leftover, no person is useless. And in the city, no person is unimportant in finding solutions. So it looks at the city of the city, we have to look at some philosophical issues, looking at the sectarian philosophy about the city. It sees the city as a place of with immortal soul. So it means that if the city is living and active, it says that the city is immortal, can never die, can never be destroyed, but it can transform, it can change and develop from one level or the other. And so city can never die, even those that are seen as non-existent. Geological and archaeological issues have made us understand that we still learn a lot from those ones that have been buried in the soil. So sectarian philosophy sees the city as very immortal. And again, that brings in view the sustainability of the city. If the city is immortal, it means that it can continue transforming and under a dynamic equilibrium. New equilibria are always established for the city to continue. We also have another philosophical concept defining the city, the Darwinian concept, where I mentioned earlier about the natural selection, the evolution. But the more important that the city evolves. While evolving, there is a lot of adaptation. And we're in that adaptation, we have genetic, just both physical, both physiological and economical, that people will be able to survive. So people have to develop systems that will make them survive in the city based on the Darwinian concept. I've discussed something about the model of the core of the city, and all these things will happen at the center. We will also look at the Platonic philosophy of the city. The Plato looks at the city as having a mind where it can reason. So it's not static, it's not inorganic. That the city also has emotion. So the city has feelings. And then it said that the city is also appetitive, in which case it has desire to fulfill even the requirements of the body, the requirements of the soul, and the requirements of the spirit. So the city is dynamic. Another philosophy is also the Aristotelian city, where the philosophy of Aristotle looks at the city as being vegetative and being in motion, having passion like animals and having reason. In which case, a city that is green, a city that is sustainable must be vegetative. So that is why our cities, when we remove or make our cities barren by not having the green aspect of it, then there's a problem. So we look at the policy. If this is the issue, then what are the relevant policies that can help us rethink how our city should be? Then I looked at the SDGs. The SDGs, that's the Sustainable Development Goal, especially that of number 11. It talks about safe, inclusive, and sustainable urbanism, which is in line with what we are saying, that if for a city to be safe, it must be inclusive. For it to be sustainable, it must be inclusive. And these things, according to what we are talking about in urbanism, their interaction must lead to positive influence on the lifestyle and the well-being of the people. So city planners must look at the city based on governance. And good governance and urban governance talks about inclusiveness. And in inclusiveness, you don't talk about only top down, you also talk about bottom up. In which case, when you talk about top down, you are talking about policy makers, where the urban designer, where the architect, the professionals look at themselves as having the ability to decide for the city. But an inclusive city looks at takes up at the top and also takes about the bottom. People who are being affected are also taken into consideration. They make impunity. They see in which case there should be no gender disadvantage. People should not be disadvantaged based on their gender. It should be a place that is educational. Our city should form a place where our students should be doing part of their studies. So our city must evolve. Our educational system, our curriculum must look at the city as a model from where our educational programs can evolve, so that we can, our educational system will be able to take care of the needs of the city. So it's also an educational system. It also is a statical, and we also look at the daily urbanism, in which case those who are depending on the city for their daily living are not disadvantaged. They are taken care of. Now, the pandemic that we are in now is teaching us a wonderful lesson about the planning of the city. We talked about physical distancing. Physical distancing is not only at individual level. As architects, as designers, as planners, physical distancing should also encompass our infrastructure. The issue of designing our buildings, in which case we look at the low-income people and cram them without considering physical distancing should be looked at again. So COVID-19 is teaching us that physical distancing has to permeate, go beyond the individual level. It also has to go into our planning. It has to go into our buildings. It has to go into our infrastructure. In which case, ICT becomes part and parcel of our city planning. And in that vein, artificial intelligence, visual, and e-systems should be part and parcel of our city planning, so that the life in the city must also be looked at from these visual systems. The educational system should also encompass this e-system, and the personal and environmental hygiene should also be part and parcel of our city planning programs. In conclusion, I posit that in reimagining the city, that the city must not be something that is utopian, or in the realm of idealism, but it has to be in the realm of realism, in which case it must think about the people, the users, the human beings, how the human beings interact with the non-living things, even the ecology, the microsystems. How does the human being interact with them? So our city must not be utopian, must not be idealistic, but realistic. Our city also must be democratic and inclusive. It must be urbanism must be that of a democratic and inclusive urbanism, and that means that our city must evolve from the people, and it must be by the people. That's the bottom up must be considered, and it must be for the people. We must be designing for the people, not necessarily looking at the economic the economic issues, the government, the taxes and the funds the government can raise. But it also has to look at the input of people. So our city must be democratic, both in planning and in practice. And because of that, our city must be seen as something that must have in mind a system where there must be a continuous change. It must not be static. It must be have a continuous change in educating us and in being source of our education, in practice and implementation, and in our integration of the whole elements of the city. It must be a continuous issue, and there should be no static system in our city. Thank you for listening.
We thank you, Dr. Agoya. We thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Because time is not our friend at this point, I would like to welcome one or two comments and questions. So I will call on Ajibade Adeyemo to ask his question, but then you can unmute yourself, please. Ajibade Adeyemo, your question.
Yeah, I've unmuted. I hope I can be heard.
Yes.
Good afternoon. This has been a very interesting series.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to, the organizers have really made it more interesting, particularly today, having brought in the three heritages of African architecture: indigenous, Islamic, and Western. My question, apart from the comment, will go to the first speaker and probably others. There is this Yoruba word, a common statement that says "Ema tori ede be edeje." So it's about pada lati ede lang pada bo. It shows, yes. Well, I'm sure people who hear it. I will try and interpret anyway a little bit as quickly as I can. It talks about us that we should not, because of Ede, which infers a city, forget the Ede, which is like the family hall. Because when you leave the city, you are coming back to the family hall or Ede. And this takes again us to what Dr. Khalid said, that he starts from the house to the community and the city. I think just like we have all said, we have the problem of loss of identity. I really wish, like Dr. Tiku said, we all come back devoid of our religion. You see, the African city had been made so the traditional Yoruba city. The traditional Yoruba city was complete. Just as said, Ede is about the interior. And like Dr. Ochiko said, it has its Ojude. And the African building and society also was about the human being too. Enu Oju Ode, bringing out the different parts of the human body.
Okay, sir. Let me, Mr. Ajibade Adeyemo, let me allow Chief Awishe of Egbaland to quickly, yes, to quickly answer that your question. Probably we take it to.
As he wants to answer, I want to add something again, please. There is this word, akole inu.
Okay.
Let him
Okay. I'm online.
I'm online.
Okay, sir. Ẹ bá wa dáhùn sí àwọn ìbéèrè tí wọ́n béèrè ń sìn yẹn, sir. Wọ́n nípa àwọn àkànlò ilé tí à ń lò ní ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ojúde àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ẹnu ọ̀nà.
Àwọn àkànlò èdè.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Tí à ń lò.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Àwọn àkànlò èdè tí à ń lò gẹ́gẹ́ bí ojúde àti ẹnu ọ̀nà. Òun ló ó túmọ̀ sí wípé àwọn ọ̀nà tí a lè gbà tí a fi lè ṣe nǹkan bí àwọn tí ẹ̀mí ìlú tó tó ẹ̀mí dúró tí ó yẹn ni pé a gbọ́dọ̀ padà sí origin, ìyẹn orísun wa. And the soul of a city is different, the soul of a city from another city. Our own tradition may be different from your own. But what is most important is to follow the customs and the tradition of your city. And if you are able to do that, we will have peace in the city. If I saw
Dr. Otiko, please, do you have anything to say concerning that, sir? Dr. Otiko.
Well, I think these are questions that will help us in the reimagining of our cities. These are things that we need to begin to put into perspectives. I think, yes, it's important to begin to ask those questions. That's what I'll just say because of time.
Okay, there's another question here from our comment section. This is from Sammy. He said to everyone, good day. My question is, should urbanization be solely the responsibility of administrative government to the exclusion of the traditional rulers? These sole activities has eroded our traditional touches that can attract tourists. We don't have something like the Central Park of New York, or we have houses and offices where citizens can gather and share ideas and perpetuate our culture. Now, I want to call on Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid, please, can you do justice to that question? Is there Dr. Khalid? Adekoya. Okay, let's go to TP Obadejo. TP Obadejo. Dr. Khalid, you can unmute yourself. Or Dr. Agoa.
Yeah, thank you.
Allow me to unmute.
Okay, unmute yourself. Dr. Agoa.
Thank you.
Dr. Khalid, you
Yes, I'm on.
All right.
I'm on. You see, while I was talking, I made mention of the model of a city that is multi-nucleic.
Okay.
The multi-nucleic city sees a central nucleic city with other peripheral cities linking to it. And if that model is looked at, we find out that there's a proposition that in the next, by 2050, that over 80% of our most places will be cities. So we find out that the multi-nucleic model sees even communities, apart from the major city, that the peripheral communities or nodes as points where city planning, urban planning can also take place, so that with time you may have conurbation. Those peripheral cities will merge with the main city. So I find out that if the multi-nucleic aspect is taken into consideration and bottom up, combination of bottom up and top down is taken into consideration, the community leaders, the traditional rulers, and the people who are affected in the multi-nucleic or the smaller towns or the new towns going to be will be involved by that. You'll be able to respect it because they can't identify some important places like their community square, so that even the track roads.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Adekoya, can you unmute yourself? There is a question here that I want you to attend to by Owolabi Adekunle says, what is the essence of the city without an identity?
If you don't involve the country, you will erase all those now I use everything concerning the identity of the place will be accommodated.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Dr. Adekoya, do you hear my question? Hello? Can you please unmute yourself? Dr. Adekoya. Okay, let's go to Dr. Tiko. Can you please help us to do justice to that question? Dr. Tiko, please.
Oh, okay. Well, when we talk about the things that come to play, it's important to not just one aspect of the city, not everybody must come into the designing. Everybody must come into what a city should look like. Everybody must have their contribution. Clearly, we know where the resources are from in developing a city. When we want to develop the accidents, the roads, the demography, because it's the nature of the city that would attract who comes in, who settles there, who works there, who does what. It is now a requirement of everyone to be able to come together in responding to that concern of that one soul of a city. So everyone has got a role to play in defining, designing, and knowing what is the soul and what can change, what should be permanent in the city. I can't. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Dr. Son, you have to unmute. Dr. Son, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, there are two questions here. One, the person is saying urbanization should be solely responsible. It should be solely responsibility of administrative government or exclusive to the traditional rulers.
Yes. Urbanization can only be regulated by the government. It can only be regulated, that is, to create a containment for the sprawl of a city. But that is the people that can determine how the extent of the city. But the government on the other side can only regulate it by two different forms, either through policy or through creation of a buffer zone, either to create a ring road or create a green belt that you cannot go beyond this city. That is the only way that the two can work. But it's the people, it's the number of people that are coming into that city, immigration, or people into the city that determine urbanization of the government. But the government can only encourage urbanization in the sense by providing the infrastructure all that are needed that can lead to harmonious living, or that can create quality, that can improve the quality of living. Everybody wants to live in a city or in an environment that is conducive for
Thank
them.
you so much, Badija. Because we're running out of time.
Okay.
I want to quickly bring this into want to bring it quickly to a closing remark by Associate Professor Tuji Adejomo. Over to you, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
It's nice having for the past 1 hour 30 minutes is being good. I want to say that this of cities is work in progress, and we're still working on it. Just like I said, when we handle the issue of ornamentation, we're still working on it. It's working in progress. And of course, we knew that many of you have contributed here, and we will come back to you. But I will spend the next 2-3 minutes to let you know, our affiliate. We want to appreciate everybody in the last 6 weeks. We've got a lot of friends from 3, 4, 5 schools, universities in USA, starting from Harvard Graduate School of Design. We thank our friends from Canada who came in via Concordia University. Of course, our fourth friends from England, from Nottingham University. They've been wonderful. They're here. Dr. Shito, I can see you. I know you are here watching over us. And I think our friend from Australia too, 1 or 2 of you joined, and I can see you there. But much more our friends in Nigeria. I want to thank the head of Department of Architecture from ABU. He was here, he's been here time and time again, he's been here today. We're going to thank the head of Department of Architecture from Babafemi Awolowo. He was here 2 or 3 times. Of course, Dr. Agoya is speaking in from Anambra there. Friends are from Futu Oweri and Akure too. They be with us. Much more, we want to thank God for our friends who are University of Lagos here, masters and professionals in their field. Today you've seen Dr. Otiko from the Institute. You saw Dr. Khalid, who came in here from, we wore 2 caps and was able to marry the 2 caps together effectively. Our friends from philosophy, they were here time and time again. We thank our friends from Europe. Then our friend from South Africa, I didn't forget you. I know you join us now about 2 or 3 universities in South Africa. You'll be here throughout. I may not be able to mention everybody, but I want to say we are going to spend the next 2 months to look at what you have told us. Then we will strategize, and we will come back to all the tail end of this year again. And please, we want to get back to you. And even between now and then, we'll get back to you individually to clarify some of the opinion that he shared with us in various areas, starting from the local philosophy down to architectural entrepreneurship, then again to the culture in city, and architecture and design, which is metaphor, which is translated to city last week when we had the issue of ornamentation. And today, we were able to situate everything within the urban context. It's been wonderful to hear from, on behalf of Architecture and Urbanism Research Hub. We want to thank everybody. We enjoy your cooperation, your participation. Thank you. We get back to you individually. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.